Jumbo and Habari, everyone. I am Shonda Branch, and this is the Living Kwanzaa community. Welcome to our YouTube channel. I'm so glad that you're here. Today is Christmas, and I think we need to get ready for Kwanzaa. Now that we have celebrated so well with our families and gotten all of the kids settled, we've cleaned up the wrapping paper, we've put the food away. I'm ready for Kwanzaa, and I'm hoping that you are too. But just in case you're not, I wanted to give you this really, really quick primer. Again, I am Shonda Branch. I won't mind it one bit if you call me Auntie Kwanzaa. I'm an author and cultural creative. I've been working with and studying Kwanzaa for years now, but I began celebrating it in my childhood. What I've discovered is there's a new context for my celebration, my reasoning, and my why for celebrating Kwanzaa has shifted over time and matured. And I know that we need Kwanzaa now more than ever. With the way the world is, these principles are really going to come to our rescue. And I want us to all have a good foundation, and to really be grounded in these practices so that we don't have to concentrate on them and figure them out, so that we do that work ahead of time and we can simply live and move and function in the world in ways that are in alignment. So, what even is Kwanzaa? Y'all, Kwanzaa is a cultural holiday. It is not innately religious. It was founded back in 1966 by Dr. Malana Karenga, who studied the first fruits festivals of Africa in their antiquity and codified this holiday very specifically with all of its symbols, including its reference to seven in all things. Most importantly, this is an invitation for us to slow down, to come together, and to really take stock of where we are and how we are going to progress. Now, here's a quote by Dr. Malana Karenga specifically. I always like for people to hear from the founder his own words, because I feel like that eliminates some of the misconceptions about Kwanzaa and what it's for and who celebrates it and why. I think if you really look at what Dr. Karenga has said, and it's printed here on the screen, so I won't read it to you, but you will get a true understanding of what this holiday means to Black people, why it is so deeply anchored, and why it's been around for more than 50 years at this point. Now, before we celebrate Kwanzaa, we need to set the scene, and that means setting our table or our altar. The symbols of Kwanzaa are what you will place on your table and on your altar, and they will be displayed throughout this week-long celebration. You'll begin with your mkeka, the mat, which is the symbol of our foundation. It's typically a beautiful piece of woven cloth, something that is handmade or something that is African in nature. So kente, mud cloth, or maybe even wax print fabric, something like that. Then you need your kinara, your candle holder, which represents the original stock from which our ancestors came. So you have a candle holder, and it branches from a single point into those seven separate places where you are going to place your Mishuma Saba, or your seven candles. These are important. You've got to have your candles in the correct place and in the correct colors. So, one black candle at the center, three red candles to the left, three green candles to the right. Now, this is symbolic because those colors are just like the Pan African flag: black for the people, red for the struggle or for the blood, and green for the land or for the hope of the future. So make sure that you have those candles in the correct place. There is one candle for each principle. You will light one candle each night in the order of the principles. So you'll start in the center with the black candle, and then you'll move to the left for the first red candle, then back to the green side on the right, and then you'll alternate going towards the outside of your candle holder. We also use mazao, or crops, which represent traditional African harvests. So we are showing respect by having those crops on our table for the people who have labored to grow them. Growing food is not easy. It is no easy task. I know I can't do it. I have tried and failed several times. But this also is the work that our ancestors were forced into. This is the labor that was forced upon them in many cases was to grow crops. And so having them on our table in abundance is representative of the respect that we have for the labor they endured, and the disparity that some folks who are still growing crops are still enduring. Following that, you have your muhendi or your vibunzi, right? And those are, one is singular, one is plural, but they both mean corn. So you will have corn on your table to represent the children and the future. Now, here's something interesting. You should have one ear of corn for each child in your home, but no home should have less than 2 ears of corn. And that is symbolic of the fact that we are all responsible for each other's children. We are all responsible for the village children. So making sure that you have at least 2 ears of corn, whether you are one of the aunties or a godmommy, or you simply have chosen not to have kids. It's totally up to you, but make sure that you are recognizing how important it is for you to remain engaged in the lives of children, whether they are yours or not. Now, we also use the Kikombe Cha Umoja, or the Cup of Unity. That symbolizes the unity of the people and the family. Um, in our post COVID society, and in the context that I celebrate it, we use that cup for the pouring of libation. In the past, it would have been passed from family member to family member, and everyone would drink from it, not unlike communion. Um, but that is something that people are moving away from, and totally understandable why they might not want to engage in that particular practice. But we have that cup there, and it is symbolic of unity among the family and the people. And then finally, my favorite one, zawadi, or gifts. These are representative of rewards for promises made and promises kept. So if your kids had a conversation with you last year and their grades were not looking like they needed to look, and they have made some changes and they've made some progress or some efforts toward that, shown some improvement, then that is a way of rewarding them for a promise made and kept. If they have been struggling to keep their rooms tidy and they've done better, again, rewards for promises made and kept. So, not like Christmas where you simply receive gifts because you are who you are and we love you and we're going to give you things. Zawadi is designed to be intentional, something that the children earn. Now, I am a big kid myself, so I do expect to have Zawadi presented to me for promises made and kept and for growth made on my part. And in my house, everyone does, in fact, receive Zawadi. Mind you that these are gifts that are educational, they are cultural, or they are experience driven. So we're not just throwing a PlayStation 17 at the kids. We are giving them books or flashcards to help them learn another language. We are giving them a subscription to a magazine on world travel. We are giving them um, tickets to see a fantastic show. We are giving them African clothing or t shirts with historical figures printed on it. We are being very intentional about the gifts that we are giving them. The other option is to go handmade. So I happen to knit and crochet. That is something that I do as a hobby, and people have always enjoyed receiving handmade gifts from me. So that's part of something that I do throughout the year, and I put them away. And when it's time for Kwanzaa, I have items that I'm ready to share with folks. So those are the 7 symbols of Kwanzaa, and we use them to set the scene. Here is what it looks like when all of those things are laid out. You'll notice that there's a couple of extra things on my table. I have just a very small live plant. That is what I use to pour the libation into. I always want to pour it into an earthen vessel or into a living plant. And then you'll also notice that I have just a little holder of incense because I like how incense smells. I burn incense a lot in my home. And then that incense is sitting on top of something that I'm very proud of, my Gullah Geechee New Testament. My grandfather is from South Carolina, and my family is still there. We are deeply rooted in the Gullah Geechee community there, and I am a proud descendant of those people. And so I read from my Gullah Geechee New Testament very often, and especially the Christmas story. I've enjoyed sharing that with my family. So that's something that I always add. This year, I am also adding a book of Nikki Giovanni's poetry. I am adding some memoirs from our beloved ancestors who have gone on in the past year. So just you are able to add to those seven symbols things that are significant to you personally, to your family, or to your local community, so that it is representative of who and why you are celebrating. So each night, as we begin our candle lighting, now that we've got everything set up, at the very start, we will have our Tambiko ceremony, which is the libation. That will be the first thing that you do on the opening of night one. And that ceremony does just a few things. It calls on us to honor our elders, the folks who are in the room at present. And in African culture, we place a great value on the wisdom that comes with age. So you will look to your elders for not just permission to carry on your celebration, but their blessing, for them to tell you this is going to be great, and we are excited to see how you go forward. Spend some time with your elders in conversation. There is much to be gleaned from them. We honor our leaders, the head of our household, folks who are significant in the community who may be coming through our celebration. There is a lot that goes into leadership. It takes a significant amount of preparation and study and dedication, and we always want to honor those who are in those leadership roles. So we honor our leaders. And then finally, we remember our ancestors. So this is a space where we always invite people to have a reading of the names, or for folks to organically call out the names of friends and family members who have gone on to become ancestors in the past year or in the previous years. It's always a really touching moment in the ceremony. And I always like to give people that space intentionally. I think that there are some folks who get a little squishy or a little squeamish and get afraid that they are leaning into ancestral worship. That is not what this is. We are simply affirming that every life that has been lived has great value, and those who have been connected to us have touched us in ways that linger and will go on. And so we always want to create space for our ancestors to be remembered in our celebration of Kwanzaa. So once we've done those things, we are ready to light our candles. So this can happen a couple of ways. The traditional way is each night for 7 nights, you will gather and go through these steps. You will go through this particular ceremony. If you are an organization and you are hosting one big Kwanzaa event, it is perfectly acceptable for you to light all of your candles and do all of this as one big ceremony on a given night. It's hard to get people to come out 7 nights in a row for something like this. That is preferable. I've even seen this done sort of like a progressive dinner where you start at one house and then the next person hosts the second night and the next person hosts the third night, and it goes on that way. Um, I encourage you to find a context and a routine in a way that allows you some comfort and excitement in celebrating something that's realistic and achievable for you and your family and your friends and your community. Make it matter and make it make sense. So, the candle lighting each night begins with a song, just something easy that everybody can join in on. This little light of mine is one of my favorites to start with. I also like a good funga alafia if you're going to, go with an African something that people are familiar with. Um, then you will light your candles. There's a call and response that goes with that, which we'll see in just a second. You recite the principle. Then there's time for some way of artistically representing what that principle means. So a song can be played or sung live, or a poem can be read or recited. Someone can dance to something related to this principle, interpretive dance moment. Someone can display their artwork and talk about what they've made. Someone can share their business plan and talk about how they are going to move forward with that. This is the point where you are going to bring in some tangible representation of the principle and lift that up. That's followed by a discussion about how we've done with that particular principle in the past, um, more specifically in the past year, and how we can do better going forward. Where are our strengths and weaknesses? That's the full on SWOT moment. Then my favorite part is the food and fellowship. This is where you get with that favorite auntie who has the recipe for banana pudding that everybody loves. And this is where you either get her to make it, and preferably you get her to show you how to make it so that that recipe can perpetuate and go on. Um, I like to invite people to discover new dishes, try African dishes that you may not have tried before, or to dig into your soul food recipe book or your card catalog and find things that either were made by your family members or are part of the African American food way, and just enjoy each other. When it's hard for people to be grumpy when they got a good plate of food in front of them or when they got a good drink in their hand. So enjoy the food and the fellowship and the time together. That is the most important part of that. So here is just a very, very brief, very basic call and response style script for each night of Kwanzaa. You start with Umoja, that's the first candle, the black one in the center, and the speaker will say, Habari Gani. That simply means, what's the news? The group is going to respond, Umoja, Umoja, unity. So they're responding twice in Swahili, which is the official language of Kwanzaa, and once in English. And then the speaker will again pronounce the principle to strive for and maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race. So then you can either go to the next part of the ceremony for that night, or if you're doing a group Kwanzaa event and you're doing all of these at the same time, you would just go to the next one. Kujichagulia is the second principle, and the speaker again would say, Habari Gani, and everyone would reply, Kujichagulia, Kujichagulia, self-determination. To define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves, and speak for ourselves. Ujima, Habari Gani, Ujima, Ujima, collective work and responsibility. To build and maintain our community together and make our brothers and sisters' problems our problems and solve them together. So the pattern goes on this way. Ujama is cooperative economics, to build and maintain our own stores, shops, and other businesses and to profit from them together. Nia is purpose, to make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. Kaumba is creativity, to do as much as we can in the way we can in order to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited it. And Imani is faith. Imani means faith, to believe with all our heart in our people, our parents, our teachers, our leaders, and the righteousness and victory of our struggle. Now, we close our celebration of Kwanzaa with the Harambe salute. I won't read this to you, but It is a charge and it is powerful when a group of people get together and this is read out loud, and then you close that with everyone reciting or repeating Harambe 7 times. And the action is to take your right hand, if you're able, and reach into the air and then pull down with a fist into yourself. Um, the visual of that by candlelight with a room full of people dressed in their African finest clothes. It's amazing, and I love that moment. The Harambe salute really sends us into the new year with a clear vision, a clear charge, having had all of these discussions, having appreciated all of the amazing art and whatnot. We have something to walk forward into that's very, very powerful. So, after our 7 days of Kwanzaa, we don't just turn off the switch and walk away from this. Kwanzaa is meant to be a lifestyle, it's meant to stretch far beyond just those 7 days. So, how do we do that? How do we actually make that happen? That's what Living Kwanzaa is all about. That's what I'm here to help educate and guide people through. It's a path that I am learning and walking myself, but I figure we might as well learn and walk together. So we have to thoughtfully evaluate our homes, our businesses, our organizations. And this is the hard part. We have to evaluate ourselves. You have to really look at each one of those principles and how you are walking that out, if you are walking that out, and really expose those areas where you might be weaker in one than in other. You might be doing really great with 2 out of 7. Let's do better. Then you can set and track specific goals. What are you going to focus on, and how are you going to lay some things that are actionable out in front of you to ensure that you get there? This one I really love: invite an ally or participate as one. Kwanzaa, again, is for everybody. We cannot expect for our allies to show up for us in significant and authentic ways if we don't invite them to come and learn about us with us. If we don't invite them to the table and sit down and say, this is who we are and this is what we value, we can't expect them to work alongside us. Again, they're not going to work for us, but they are going to work alongside us. I think it also is important to have accountability partners from your own community or from your own household, folks who can say, okay, we're slipping on this one or we're slipping on that principle. We need to get back on track. So I think that having allies and partners as you go through this is significant. Gather and check in with them specifically at certain intervals so that you know where you're making progress and where you're not and how you can improve. And then finally, this one is big: give the gift of yourself to your community. When you find resources, don't gatekeep, share those resources. When you get information, don't gatekeep, share the information. Find ways to communicate with each other and make sure that everyone has what they need and knows what they need to know. And that will go a long way to making sure that all of us are progressing together. So, here is something that I'm really, really excited about. This is the third season that I have been fortunate to create a broadcast for each night of Kwanzaa. I have had guests on in the past 2 years um, from all over the nation, and it's been a privilege to celebrate with them and really enjoy Kwanzaa together. These are friends who have unique perspectives and outlooks on the celebration of Kwanzaa, and specifically the principles of Kwanzaa and how they are showing up in their lives, how they are showing up in their careers, and how they are able to connect their communities in ways that are significant. We have an opportunity to learn so much from the guests that I have gathered this year. It is going to be huge. Every night from December 26th, that's tomorrow night, all the way through January 1st at 7 p.m. You can tune in right here on this channel. And we are going to have an interview with another phenomenal figure or a group of phenomenal people who are really landing with Kwanzaa in a significant way. I want to share those friends and those moments with you. So be sure that you come back. Do not miss this. So the Living Kwanzaa community is here to stay. You can find us all over social media. We are on YouTube at Living Kwanzaa, on Instagram at Living Kwanzaa, and at Buy Me a Coffee, we have a community that is gathering there um, at Buy Me a Coffee slash Living Kwanzaa. So flow.page Living Kwanzaa is our home base. That is our site. That is where you are going to find lots of information, resources, and materials. If you would like, you can scan the QR code here and you can go visit flow.page slash living Kwanzaa for more information, trainings, books, video playlists, coloring sheets, affirmations, and meditations, which I am super proud of. I wrote those just this year. And I am looking forward to everybody being able to take a moment now that Christmas has has come and gone, and we are ready to settle into Kwanzaa. That's going to really give you some opportunity to get quiet and settle your mind and prepare for Kwanzaa. Again, I mentioned we have a community that is growing there, and I am thrilled that you are going to be a part of it. So, again, I am Shonda Branch. Thank you so much for spending just a few moments with me on this Christmas evening to learn about Kwanzaa as we go forward into that celebration of light. Um, Happy Hanukkah to all of my friends who have celebrated that recently. And I'm just really, really excited about where Living Kwanzaa is going to show up for you. All right. Merry Christmas and a joyous Kwanzaa, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow night.